Day 2 of the Overwatch League wrapped up yesterday, and we were treated to another set of incredible matches. In case you missed the action, don't you worry, this video will cover everything you missed from yesterday and give you a preview of what to expect later on today. I'm LemonKiwi, and I'm happy to bring you this recap of Day 2 of the Overwatch League, and Leg Day will be telling you what to keep your eye on right after this. On February 15th, we saw the debut of the Toronto Defiant versus the Houston Outlaws, the Atlanta Reign versus Florida Mayhem, the return of the Dallas Fuel versus the San Francisco Shock, and the debut of the Chengdu Hunters versus the Guangzhou Charge. Let's start with the most exciting match in Overwatch League so far, and the first Game 5 of the season is the Toronto Defiant versus the Houston Outlaws. So, spoiler alert, Defiant reverse swept the Outlaws to take their first win, which I don't think anybody expected that result. We saw some very interesting compositions from both teams. For example, Houston brought out Jake on the May with triple tank and double support with a Moira, and even more surprising, Defiant brings out triple DPS solo tank with Fire Mercy, Hanzo, and Sombra with aid on the Zen. For the Outlaws, it seemed like there was some miscommunications between Dante's ultimates and if the rest of the team were ready for Dante's ultimates. For example, Dante got a Grav Eaten on Sanctum, he got stunned right before an EMP on Numbani, which gave enough time to aid to Trance, and there was repeated Gravitons put in small places where Muma was unable to break through his Winston. There was even a time that Dante died with Grav at the end of their defense of Numbani, which was a critical oof for the Outlaws. There was even a point where Houston, well, they tried to do something new and put actually Cool Mat on the Zarya, and Dante went to the Brigitte. But overall, I just think Dante probably just needs more time to warm up with the rest of his team. Outlaws had been winning fights without these ultimates anyway, and they stayed composed in the later stages of the fight and were able to take the first two maps over the Defiant. I just thought Muma had a really incredible performance as Winston for most of the series. I think one of my favorite NA tanks in the Overwatch League, as his primal rages were often the key points that swung the fights for the Outlaws. It's now 2-0 for the Outlaws, and things are just looking great for them. The comeback from Defiant, though, starts on Volskaya, where Houston held a really solid defense by preventing Defiant from finishing the map. But on Houston's attack, they put Linkster on the Reaper and they sacrificed the D.Va. So despite this not working out multiple times, they still never swapped their comp, and all Defiant had to do was keep away from them with their Winston dive 3-3, so the Reaper could never get set up and never get any ult charge. So because of this, Houston dropped Volskaya. So the Defiant continued their dominance with the Winston 3-3 to hold Outlaws at point B of Route 66 to send them to a Game 5 on Busan. But this is where Defiant start to worry a little bit, because Outlaws then brought out this disruption comp of the Hammond, triple DPS, Widow Sombra Tracer with an Ana Lucio. So the Defiant were so used to organized play that it seemed that Outlaws finally found a crack in the armor by splitting the Defiant apart. So Outlaws just rolled downtown 100-0, and it seemed like Singshore is probably going to be the same story. Ivy was having a shaky performance on Tracer, he wasn't focusing on the supports or Linkster's Widow that was kind of destroying the Defiant. But eventually the Defiant improved their focus fire enough to take out the DPS of Outlaws and hold on to that momentum to go into the third round of Busan. And the final round was just nuts. It was great to see all the swaps both teams did to just counter each other's heroes, and this just could have been anyone's game. In the very last fight though, Ivy and Envy found redemption, really popped off and wiped out half of Outlaws, and the map finished 100-99 for Defiant for the reverse sweep over the Outlaws. Next up is the Atlanta Reign versus the Florida Mayhem, and this was probably the most entertaining match because this was Defran's first appearance on the Overwatch League stage. And right out the gates on Ilios, Reign had Defran play Torb with Erster on the Hanzo, with your usual Orisa D.Va comp. And then Mayhem comes out with the Winston 3-3, and it seemed that Mayhem should have gotten the edge compositionally, but Defran and the team proved they weren't just memeing, and they take Ilios decisively over the Mayhem. I think the first map was 100-45, and the second map ended 100-0. So on Hollywood, Mayhem seemed to be setting up around BQB's Sombra, or following up with Swan's space creation and pile drivers with the Hammond. So BQB and Tvik eventually seem to be warming up to each other as they set up a really nice EMP and barrage combo to take the point on Hollywood. Mayhem's attack fell apart from just small unlucky mistakes, it felt like Swan dying before Kravis dropped in the final fight. To give credit to Rain, they had really great grab setups by Defiant and Dako on the defense, but overall, Defiant's Graviton uptime was just much quicker than BQB's, and there was also a really big difference in Zarya playstyles, such as Defiant seeming to want to create these opportunities and was way more aggressive with his ult usage, whilst BQB felt more patient and careful about how he was going to use it. But because of that, often BQB was dying with his ults. Like BQB could have grabbed to prevent Rain from taking the point, but kept it and then died a few more times until he had to panic grab, which ultimately couldn't save Mayhem's defense. So Rain take Hollywood and are up 2-0 over the Mayhem. While Sky looked really promising for the Mayhem, their attacks looked more decisive, and they even finished with a 5+ minute time bank, and even had a time bank advantage over the Rain by over a minute. Defiant was consistently the one turning the odds for Rain. The second to last fight for Mayhem, Defiant got a 3k even after an EMP self-destruct was used for Mayhem, and in the last attack for Mayhem, they EMP'd and Defiant grabbed self-destruct combo to wipe out Mayhem after that. Mayhem were just not quick enough on their follow-ups of the EMPs by BQB, and it was really great dispersed positioning from the Rain that made it so hard for Mayhem to focus fire. So because of that, Rain take Volskaya and win the overall series. When map 4 Route 66 came around, it proved that Mayhem could win fights over Rain without using ults. On Mayhem's attack, they were stuck in spawn for a little bit until BQB got his first grab. Mayhem couldn't get to point A until a second grab, and after all that time was wasted, Mayhem couldn't set up a third grab to push to B. So it was a valiant effort from Mayhem on their defense, but Rain proved to be the superior team in this match. Mayhem had the potential to be a great team, they just need the time to tighten up their team synergy and improve their in-game leadership to make the most out of these fights when they do have the ults. Our third game was the Dallas Fuel versus the San Francisco Shock, and if you're a Fuel fan such as myself, you're probably burning blue with sadness after that one. Fuel picked up RCK from Giganti, Zachary from Fusion University, and Closer from the Spitfire, but Fuel fans just had a lot of questions like, where was Miggy? Where is Harry Hook's place on the team in this meta? And is Zachary really only in Brig Jail? Because Zachary was known for his incredible Sombra play on Fusion University, but then they put AKM on Sombra after map 1 didn't go their way. So they gave up the Sombra 2 tank, 3 support strat, and brought in RCK as the diva, and I think this was one of the few bright spots that Dallas Fuel had during that series, as RCK ate 2 of Sinatra's grabs on Rialto and actually had a really solid performance despite the losses. The way that Fuel played tonight made me kind of reminisce over the way that they were at the beginning of last season, and like then, it didn't seem like they put much thought into how they were using their ults or finding the right moment when to engage. It's clear Shock were more prepared in their GOATS matchup than the Fuel were. Sinatra felt like a Zarya superstar, which is an incredible performance, even grabbing Fuel in their own spawn on King's Road defense. And the self-destructs by Choyobin were really well set up by just the entire team and usually resulted in multi-kills, and at the very least a team fight win for the Shock. I also really liked how Shock's support lineup was incredibly flexible, anything from the Moira 3-3 on Nepal to Ana Zen Lucio no Brigitte on King's Row to comps getting away from the 3-3, proving the time they've put into coming up with strategies for the dichotomy of each map they were playing. And even the Symmetra TP to the point on Lunar Colony to cause a C9 by Fuel, RIP, at the last round was really well thought out. And Shock didn't even play Striker, which has been talked about to be the best tracer in the league and probably the whole world. So they didn't even play their raid boss and they still performed this well? Like, I think everyone should keep their eye on the Shock after the performance we saw yesterday, and perhaps give Fuel some time to adjust their differences in playstyle within the roster and climb back like they usually do. Our final match was between the Chengdu Hunters and the Guangzhou Charge, and this also went to a Game 5. But to many people's surprise, it was the Hunters that took the win in the final round of Nepal in the final map. A lot of people expected the Charge to win this one, but Hunters surprised a lot of people yesterday, and this series was incredibly back and forth between these two teams, with Charge starting off strong on Nepal, Hunters responding with a defensive hold on Numbani, then Charge showing their prowess on defense on Volskaya, and Hunters sending themselves to a Game 5 after taking Dorado. There's a lot to digest between what happened in the series and these two teams, as we saw strategies from Contenders China and Contenders Korea take the stage. Both teams played more Hammond than any other tank, sometimes with D.Va, sometimes with Zarya, and sometimes even without an off-tank. It was absolutely nuts to see how chaotic these fights were because of the amount of DPS that was played. Hammonds were consistently, hopping in and out, EMPs left and right, Tracers sneaking pulse bombs into the back. It was really hard to tell who was winning a fight and who was on top. Hunters were rated pretty low on a lot of Trusted Personalities power rankings, however, they showed some serious potential with their double sniper of Jinmu and Bacon Jack on maps like Dorado. But Happy proved to be the superior Widowmaker over Bacon Jack, needing the attention from most of the Hunter players to take him down on maps like Volskaya, Dorado, and Nepal. Eileen Sombra created a lot of opportunities for the Charge, and it seemed to be their go-to strategy to enable him and follow up on his hacks as much as possible. In the earlier maps, Hotba absolutely popped off on Tracer. He was hitting so many pulse bombs, harassing the supports, being invincible, making a highlight reel out of himself. But Charge as a whole had a really solid performance despite losing the series. But out of all the crazy comps that we saw, the only choice I really didn't understand was Hunters trying the Roadhog on Busan Mecha Base instead of a Zarya against an Ana Brig Sombra comp. So that just really messed up Late Young because he was going for whole hogs, getting hacked, slept, and all kinds of other things, and it prevented him from doing anything. But overall, the series was a huge breath of fresh air for the fans as these two teams introduced their take on the meta. A bright spot for me on Hunters was definitely a Mang or alternate name Vanessa from the Chinese scene. The way he was able to harass Charge's backline, take their attention away, stall for time for his team on every single map as Hammond was incredible. He was said to be one of the best Hammonds in the world, and I believe it after that performance. And in the final round in Game 5, Zengoats versus Zengoats, so close between these two teams, Hunters took advantage of Charge's over-aggression and took Nepal to win in Game 5. Both these teams played incredibly well, and I could go on about the individual plays and the strengths of each team, but you all should absolutely go rewatch the series between the Hunters and the Charge and see for yourself just how insane that match was. Well, that concludes the recap of Day 2. Hope you liked it. Now here's Leg Day to give you a preview of what to expect for Day 3.
First up, we have a battle for Europe between the London Spitfire and the Paris Eternal. Coming off a rocky start to the season with a 3-1 loss to the Philadelphia Fusion, London must make their stand for Stage 1 playoff contention already, starting here. Meanwhile, Paris Eternal are beginning with an Overwatch League hazing, showing themselves in competition for the first time against the previous season's champions. Keys to victory here all revolve around gesture, with London looking to tame or reinforce his high-progressive tendencies and Paris to exploit them while maintaining their own steady frontline. Paris need to offer a formidable enough check on London's powers, they don't feel able to flex over onto their monstrously powerful DPS compositions, which we can expect on Assault. Second on the block, we have an East Coast showdown between league favourites Newark Excelsior and newcomers Washington Justice. Another hazing for an expansion team with their first appearance on stage being against a team many are pegging as the leader of the pack for the entirety of Season 2. Favourites or not, however, NYXL's recent match against the Boston Uprising left them more black and blue than their colour scheme implies, only narrowly squeaking out a 2-1 victory. Furthermore, Washington Justice have some pride on the line. With a lineup featuring Janus and backroom touting Wizard Yong, they are sure to want to contend fiercely with previous teammates. Keys to victory for Washington Justice may include sniffing out a way to control and minimize the effect of Mako Sombra, in addition to the usual 3-3 composition of the meta used to flummox the Boston Uprising and gain the edge required to narrowly take that series. Next up, we see hometown heroes Los Angeles Valiant also make their first 2019 appearance against fan favorites and well-dressed devils, the Hangzhou Spark. The Valiant are looking to eliminate any doubts that their off-season shakeups have weakened them. Having lost superstars soon to the Paris Eternal, some wonder if they still possess the firepower necessary to dominate as in Stage 4 of the inaugural season. It will likely all fall to KSF and Kariv to pick up any slack left in damage, and the team mainstays Fate and Kusta ready to steady the ship. Hangzhou meanwhile have momentum in their favour already with a win under their belt against the Shanghai Dragons in a neat 3-1 fashion. This is anticipated to be a close matchup, but it's entirely possible that Coach Moon's oversight on the Valiant has created a well-oiled 3-3 machine that could send the Spark through a loop. It will have to come down to Spark to react well to whatever Valiant throws down and see if their communication structures can handle the pressure applied if Goushue is brought to the stage. Finally, to round out the night, the Vancouver Titans will debut in the Blizzard Arena, contending with Overwatch League sweethearts and currently 0-41 team, the Shanghai Dragons. Vancouver Titans are hotly anticipated to be a powerhouse expansion team, with pre-baked synergy of nearly 3 years playing together in the cases of Bumper, Stitch, and Haksal, alongside coming off a successful winning season in Korean contenders. Shanghai Dragons still hold the keys to the hearts of many fans in the Overwatch League, with their winless inaugural season creating an overpowering feeling of underdog status. With an upending of their roster in the offseason and near wholesale replacement of the squad, Shanghai is still looking to turn their 0 into a single win, having been denied by Hangzhou Spark on opening day. The key to victory here for the Titans is to rely on their top tier synergy to simply outplay the Dragons in a 3-3 to 3-3 matchup and react decisively to any shenanigans the Dragons might have in store. So that is it, guys, your quick preview from ELO Hell for Day 3, Week 1, Stage 1 of the Overwatch League 2019 season. Hope you all enjoyed watching and make sure to hit that subscribe button.